Hi everybody, welcome back to Julie at Home. Today's video is on resources we used to study the Aztecs and the Incas. I really wanted to make sure that my children understood about the peoples that lived in the Americas before the Europeans came over and colonization started. So we did pause in our studies at that point, and I also covered the Native Americans that were living in North America at the time and what that kind of looked like to the best of our knowledge. And so I have a separate video on that I will link here. Today I will be focusing on the Aztecs, who were in Central America, modern day Mexico, and then the Incas in South America, mostly modern day Peru. And their heyday was really during the 13 and 1400s until the Spanish arrived in Central South America in the early mid 1500s. I think Cortez arrives in 1519. So there's some context. If you are doing a chronological study like we are doing, that is where these fit in. I made myself a little reference sheet, which was good because we did this a little while ago and I would not have remembered everything that we did, to be honest. I will include everything in the description box below with links where I can, so go look at that if you want more details. Today's video is going to be structured similarly to some of my other book videos. I'm going to start with some general resources that I used for both the Aztecs and the Incas, and then I will talk about the Aztecs and the Incas separately. And then at the end, I have a few books that are more related to what happened when the Europeans came over. So this is the history curriculum that I've been using and enjoying for a few years now, actually. And this is Curiosity Chronicles. This is snapshots of medieval history. This was the first year that we used it, and so I got the digital copy and printed it out. They also have books that are pre-printed that you can buy, and that's what I do now. So I recommend that. They do have some pictures and stuff in color and everything, so it is helpful to have the color printed. So just a heads up, it might be easier to just buy the print book. But this has a couple chapters in it, one on the Aztecs, one on the Incas, and then I think 2 chapters on the Europeans that came over to that area of the Americas. So I will be telling you which ones we used for each section as we go. Now this is before Columbus, the Americas of 1491. This is an amazing resource. So Charles C. Mann wrote the book 1491, and it's a fantastic book, but it's more aimed at adults. I wouldn't be reading that to my kids yet. And this kind of takes it, it's not like a youth version, but it is more digestible. It's got lots of pictures in here. So it doesn't have everything that's in the book 1491, but it really is just a really good introduction to the Americas before Columbus. And I think especially this really early time, like it starts with, I think, the Olmecs. The Mayas were much earlier as well. Often, I think when I learned in history, I was like, the Mayas, the Incas, and the Aztecs, and they're all like one grouping in my mind. But the Mayas kind of were falling by 900, 1000, which is several hundred years before the Aztecs and the Incas were in their full glory. So we covered the Mayas much earlier. But this does start, so it starts with like a full history of what was happening in the Americas before Columbus, who came over in 1492. So I think this book is really helpful in general. I will again note the specific chapters that we read for the Aztecs and the Incas and such in this book as I go. And these are just for fun, but I got a coloring book. See, they've lumped the Mayans and the Aztecs and Incas in there. So what I do is I just buy a coloring book, and then I have a copier at home. I know not everybody has that, but I just copy pages for my kids so that I can reuse it, and so that in case they want the same page, which is often the case, then I have that. So that's what I do with my coloring books. And then this is an older one, and I'm not sure that all the information is accurate, but I use this mainly for the pictures. It does have lovely pictures of artifacts and such. So those are all of the general resource books. Before we dive into the Aztecs, I wanted to mention that if you do want to get through this whole book, chapters 1 through 3 we did earlier, because it does talk about like the Olmecs, the Mayas, and then it talks a bit, really interestingly, about maize and how it was engineered to become the corn we know today. And that might be a good one that you could also incorporate with learning about the Aztecs, but I did those 3 chapters earlier. Starting with the Aztecs, we did read chapter 32 of Curiosity Chronicles, which is about the Aztecs. And then I, of course, have other books. This is Growing Up in Aztec Times. It's a little bit older and a little harder to find, but I thought it was really nice. I really like having books that are, especially it's aimed at children and what children would have been doing. And I think as children, that is more fun for them to learn. So this isn't really a story. It's, you know, I don't know if I would consider this a living book in that way, but I do enjoy it and I think it's a really good resource. So it had a lot of good information as well. You Wouldn't Want to Be an Aztec Sacrifice. So we like these books. I would warn you, like, it can be a little gruesome and graphic. I mean, it does highlight some of the more gruesome parts of history. So, you know, if you or your children are especially sensitive, then I wouldn't include this one. But it's like told from a perspective of somebody who's going to be an Aztec sacrifice and what happens. And there's a lot of good information in it. The pictures are a little cartoony, and that's probably for the best because of the nature of what we're talking about, to be honest. And that's the case in all of these books with the You Wouldn't Want to Be series. My children actually really love them and engage with them really well, so I do keep using them. So this is You Wouldn't Want to Be, sorry about the glare. You Wouldn't Want to Be an Aztec Sacrifice. This is a beautiful book. This is Musicians of the Sun, and this is actually an Aztec folktale that's been retold. And it has pictures that are reminiscent of Aztec art, which is lovely. And I love including folk tales whenever I can. I think it tells a lot about a culture, and especially when you have a book like this where it incorporates art from that culture or inspired by that culture. I think it's wonderful. Okay, then we have a chapter in this book. So this book is Vincent's Starry Nights and Other Story, A Children's History of Art, and I usually use this for our artist studies. There's a lot of artists in here, but there is actually a short chapter on the Aztecs, and specifically the Eagle Warriors. Let's see if I can find it in here. Or the Eagle Knights, rather. So this is specifically about the Eagle Knights. And this is the artwork you're looking at here. And it tells you about the Eagle Knights, who were like really, I guess, advanced military for the Aztecs. They would capture people from the conquered nations. So this isn't like some of these in here are more about a specific artist, but this is more about that like one piece of art and what inspired it. So also for the Aztecs, we did watch a video on the history of chocolate, and then made some Aztec hot chocolate, which I found a recipe for. I'll try to find the video and the recipe and link them below as well. I mean, we like chocolate here, so it's fun to know what the origins were. Aztec hot chocolate, as we made it, is much more bitter. Like, so they didn't have they didn't add all the sugar that we had today. Our chocolate's mostly sugar, and they added spices. So it's more bitter and it's more spicy. And it's kind of fun. I don't think my kids really enjoyed it, but I did, so there you go. You can also do things with corn, and then I'm gonna have to take a look. I love Tasting History with Max Miller. It's another YouTube channel on here. He just came out with a cookbook that I got, and I highly recommend. And he does videos that have a recipe that he makes, and then he gives for you to try, and the historical context or information around that recipe. And I am actually not sure if he has an Aztec one, but I just wanted to put that in there because I'm going to be looking. By the time you see this, or between when we did the study and now, there may well be an Aztec one that I don't know about. Moving on to the Incas. We did start by reading chapter 33 in Curiosity Chronicles, Snapshot of Medieval History. So we started with that basis and then added more books. This first one is just like a lovely little tale. I don't know that it gives you a whole lot of information. I had this for geography when I did my Around the World study with my kids years ago now. It's, oh my goodness, they were in preschool. We used this to talk about South America and Peru. It kind of gives you a good introduction to the area that we're talking about. Let's see. So, and I just also wanted to include this because this is really good for little kids. If you have little ones that you're trying to incorporate, or maybe your kids are on the younger side, then this would be a great option to start with. It's got really nice pictures and it's talking about, and then you can read this in the back, the history of Peru, to, you know, whatever age kid you like, but I think it's probably aimed at a slightly older set here. And it, yeah, there's a lot of information in the back, which I do appreciate. And there will be more in Machu Picchu, do not worry. Okay. I also I really like the illustrations in all the barefoot books. And this is a great map here too of where the Andes Mountains are, and Lake Titicaca and stuff, which are all important to the Incas. So that was up and down the Andes. Sorry for the glare. It is hard to get good lighting and not have it glare on my books. Another you wouldn't want to, and this is you wouldn't want to be an Inca mummy. I'd say overall a little less distressing than the Aztec sacrifice. However, I didn't realize until reading this that they actually just kept all the mummies of all the emperors. They still had houses and everything. It's fascinating. There's just a lot of really good information in here. I really like this one. This is The Llama's Secret, a Peruvian Legend. It's unclear exactly when this takes place, so it seems like from the clothing and stuff it's later than the Incas, but it's definitely from like the descendants of the mighty Inca Empire. It's about them and really about the importance of the llama. And I don't know about you, but my kids always love animals, so focusing a bit on the llama and its importance to the Incas and the people of Peru, I thought was really cool. And I just really enjoyed this story in general. So, The Llama's Secret. Inca Town. This is another older one that I had to kind of search for, and so hopefully I can link it below, but we'll see. I really enjoy this. I think it's fantastic. This is called Inca Town. I love all the information, and I don't know, it's like taking a tour around an Inca town, and I just, like, for me, it really brings it to life. Like, I can imagine walking around the streets and, like, what I would see, and I love that. And it's a lot of pictures, so even though the words are small, it's not too bad to read through. I don't think we did this in one sitting. I think we broke it up, but it's not as long as it looks because there are a lot of pictures in it. I think that was one of my favorites, just like a normal family home. So that is Inca Town. Lost City, Discovery of Machu Picchu. So there actually are several options for books about Machu Picchu. And they're probably all just fantastic. This is one I went with. It has really nice pictures, and it's not just about Machu Picchu itself, but it's about the people who went later to find it and like rediscovered it later. Yeah, there's some famous explorers whose name, okay, here we go. Professor Hiram Bingham. And he was guided by a young Quechua boy who is the descendant of the Incas. The pictures are beautiful, so I think that's why I ended up going with this one. I think it's great. Okay, this is of a similar vein. It seems like a lot of my Inca books are actually like possibly slightly more modern and like referring back to the Incas, but that's just what I found. So this is a classic. This is Secret of the Andes. This is a chapter book, so it was a read aloud for us. It's about a young modern Inca boy, Kuzi. I'm just going to read you the description in the back because I actually think it's a very good description. So, Kuzi, a modern Inca boy, leaves his home high in the Andes Mountains to learn the mysterious secret of his ancient ancestors. Accompanied by his pet llama, Misty, llamas are also very important in this story, he slowly discovers the truth about his birth and his people's ancient glory. Now he must prove himself worthy to be entrusted with the fabulous secret from the past. So it is more modern day, but there's a lot of references. It's really steeped in like Inca culture, and also the dynamics between the Incas, who they call them Indians in here. And this is, I'm pretty sure, not a native author, so like heads up on that one. It does touch on like the Inca descendants versus the Spanish descendants a little bit. We also did make an Inca recipe that I found online. It was a potato soup. I think I probably could have done better with it, but interestingly, the potato originates in the Andes, and they had so many more varieties of potatoes than we have today. There are more potatoes grown today than you would see in the normal grocery store, even. Like, you got like a couple varieties, but there were hundreds and hundreds of varieties of potatoes, and they were very important to the Incas and the people of the Andes, and they grow really well there. So I made a potato soup. I think I probably didn't have the right spices or something, and I think I remember it being pretty bland. So I don't know if I recommend it, but I love incorporating food and other things in our studies, so that's what we did. I also was able to find our local grocery store had what are they called? They're corn snacks. They are a little hard, so after I got them and tried them, I didn't really let my little two have them because they felt like a choking hazard to me. So I'm just gonna give you a heads up on that. But it's like called like Inca corn or something like that. So I thought we would try it. We had it as a snack while I read some of the books. We did these after we talked about the Native people of North America. And even in that study, we did get into a little bit Columbus coming over. The Europeans did make it to the northern part, I think a little bit earlier than the central and the southern parts. Well, they really made it to the Caribbean islands first. I do have a couple resources here that talk more about the Europeans, especially Spanish, coming over and kind of the aftermath of that, which I think is important history to learn because they basically wiped out those empires. I mean, there are still descendants there and the culture does still live on in them, but really destroyed these empires. So the first thing is there are 2 chapters of Curiosity Chronicles medieval edition. There's chapter 34 is called Europe Goes and Finds the Rest of the World, and chapter 35 is Spain Claims the New World. So those 2 chapters were read, and there's a lot of good information in there. And I really like, I mean, I use this curriculum because I like how they handle these aspects of history. A lot of history isn't nice. It's not about people being nice to each other. So I like that. Yeah, I like how they handle it. So I'm just gonna say it that way. Then I have these 2 books. So this is The Sad Night. It's actually the story of an Aztec victory and a Spanish loss. It's a really cool description of what happened, but the reason it's sad is because that's really, it was like the last hurrah before the Spanish did take over. So this is about a battle with Cortez. There's more here about the Aztecs and Cortez. This is a little bit farther off, but I did put it in this section. So this isn't specifically Aztecs and Incas, but I'm putting it in here because it kind of goes with that whole colonization is beginning thing. And this is Encounter by Jane Yolen. And it is about Columbus arriving on an island from the perspective of a native child. So like at first they think they're great, they have this treasure, they have this really pale white skin, which is really interesting, but the outcome isn't great. So, and they did take and enslave the people, and yeah, it's a sad story, but I think important to learn. If you have really young ones or really sensitive ones, then this is probably not for you. But I think as far as introducing these concepts to children, I think this is a good way to do it. So those are all my resources for Aztecs and Incas. I hope they're helpful. Everything again will be in the description box below, so go check that out. I hope you and your families are all well. Bye, friends.